In Colorado, the governor signed 4 gun reform bills this morning, months after a deadly shooting at an LGBTQ nightclub in Colorado Springs. One law raises the age to buy a gun from 18 to 21. Another calls for a 3-day waiting period between when a gun is bought and when it's received. And then a third strengthens the state's red flag laws, which removes weapons from a person who is a threat to themselves or others. The fourth removes legal protections for firearms manufacturers, making it easier for them to be sued. Now, all 4 laws will likely be challenged in court. This week, there were new legal battles over gun laws in America. One state passed a new ban on assault weapons, and another is facing a Supreme Court showdown over its assault weapons ban. National correspondent Morris Sirianni takes a closer look at where gun laws in this country stand right now.
Well, as we know, this is a conversation that always really sparks a lot of strong reaction from both lawmakers and everyday Americans. And this is interesting. According to a brand new Fox News poll, finding more Americans favor limiting guns versus arming citizens to reduce the amount of gun violence. This poll also finding 6 in 10 Americans favor banning assault rifles and semi-automatic weapons altogether. Some other big takeaways: 87% of people surveyed by Fox said they are in favor of requiring criminal background checks for all gun buyers. 81% said they're in favor of raising the legal age to buy a gun to age 21. 80% think mental health checks should be required, and 77% agree with a 30-day waiting period for all gun purchases. Now, this insight comes on the heels of a violent and deadly year. 2022 saw the second highest number of mass shootings in recent history. That includes mass shootings at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York, and an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, with AR-style rifles used by suspects in both of those heinous crimes. Now, this week, Washington State became the 10th state to ban the sale of military-style assault weapons, joining Hawaii, California, Illinois, New York, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Massachusetts, and New Jersey. Washington's governor signing the measure, which bans more than 50 models of semi-automatic firearms. It also bans all semi-automatic rifles under a certain length.
These weapons of war, of assault weapons, have no reason other than mass murder. Their only purpose is to kill humans as rapidly as possible in large numbers.
Now to updates in other states. Also this week, Maryland's Democratic governor said he plans to sign more gun control bills into law, including legislation that would prohibit a person from carrying a handgun on the campus of a preschool, elementary, or middle school, or in a healthcare facility. The Maryland Daily Record reporting this morning, opponents say such laws violate their Second Amendment rights and plan to challenge it in court. Meantime, a gun store owner in Illinois is asking the Supreme Court to block the state's assault weapons ban. Robert Bevis is appealing to a lower court judge who ruled the ban is constitutional. He is arguing many law-abiding citizens have the right to use those types of weapons to do things such as defend their homes. He's also worried about his business taking a hit because he said those types of weapons are so popular in his store.
All right, Maura, thank you so much for that. That was Maura Sirianni reporting there for us. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, our investigation into how the difficult job of being a paramedic has been made even tougher with unintended consequences in some cases. We'll have the details after this.
You know, these kids grow so fast. Cherish every little moment you get with them. Tyler, he's 10, and little Daryl, he's 12. Being a single dad, it is hard, really hard. I've been there since day one. I know how it is, you know, not to have nothing. I don't really get paid much. There's been times I went hungry, made sure they ate. There ain't a thing I wouldn't do for them.
Right now, millions of our neighbors are facing hunger. Rising food prices are making it tougher to put food on the table. Please call or go online and join with Feeding America. For $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you'll help families fill their plates with nutritious food, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you.
At least now I know I gotta, help if I need it.
1 in 8 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. And when you use your credit card, You'll receive this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you're a part of a movement working together to ensure that everyone has the food and resources we all need to thrive. 98% of your donation goes directly to help millions of families bring meals home from coast to coast and in your own community.
If you're hungry, if they got it, they'll feed you. People just got to realize, places like this do exist that will help you.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org. Working together, we can end hunger in America.
Do you spend hours maintaining your gutters? Save that time with LeafGuard's maintenance-free system. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS. Mesh filters sit on top of your gutters, building up debris and eventually clogging. Then they need to be cleaned too. Honestly, your home should have been built with LeafGuard gutters. LeafGuard's wraparound hood deflects debris and keeps water away from your home. The one-piece seamless system is strong, 20% thicker than average, and built to last. Plus, LeafGuard is guaranteed to never clog for as long as you own your home. Right now, get a complete LeafGuard system for only $99 down, $99 a month, and $99 installation. You'll also receive a $100 Visa gift card with a free gutter inspection and in-home estimate. Damage from clogged gutters can cost you thousands. Never worry about clogged gutters again. Don't wait, you've still got time. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS today. That's 1-833-2-GUTTERS.
Attention firefighters, first responders, military base personnel, and airport workers, listen closely to this important legal announcement. Have you been exposed to chemical-based firefighting foam? If so, you may be entitled to a substantial cash award without going to court. For decades, aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, has been used to extinguish liquid fuel fires. A scientific study has now shown that the chemicals used to make AFFF are highly toxic to humans and can cause a significant risk of developing several types of cancer, including kidney, pancreatic, thyroid, prostate, bladder, testicular, liver, or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. If you or a loved one are a firefighter, first responder, airport worker, or member of the military that has used firefighting foam and has been diagnosed with cancer, please call the Negligence Network to file your claim today. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call the Negligence Network to see if you're eligible for substantial compensation. Call 1-800-300-4858. That's 1-800-300-4858.
Well, the drug ketamine is a powerful and short-acting sedative. In most states, paramedics can legally use ketamine on patients who are agitated to protect the patient and themselves. This Sunday, in a new episode of the series In Real Life, Scripps News investigates how paramedics sometimes use the drug ketamine and the potentially dangerous effects.
What is this?
It's a little medicine to make you just have a good time.
In September 2019, Jamie Britt found himself in a drunken struggle with police just blocks from his Charleston County, South Carolina home. Police held him down for nearly 20 minutes, and a paramedic injected him with a sedative called ketamine to calm him down.
This is wrong.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's for everybody's safety, buddy.
I'm gonna die.
No, you're not gonna die.
The nurses and the doctors, they really tried to bring him back.
Jamie never woke up.
Scripps News investigative correspondent Lori Jane Glee Hospital, you're reporting on this story to unveil the truth behind ketamine use in emergency situations, and joins us now live. And Lori Jane, we saw this brief clip there of Jamie Britt's story, obviously a very sad story. And you hear his family in the background of that clip. I'm sure that they received some terrible news.
Yes, this happened in South Carolina, and they actually moved away from South Carolina because it was so devastating for them. They are still trying to make sense of what happened. He was being arrested for public intoxication, had a conversation with police for about 17 minutes, ended up being held in the prone position for about 20 minutes. Paramedics had come in and they injected him with this sedative, ketamine. And when a couple of weeks later, he ended up dying. And when the coroner reviewed the case, the causes of death he determined were restraint, asphyxia, and the toxic effects of ketamine. And this isn't the only case that's similar to this that I've found in my investigation.
Well, why did you start obviously digging deeper and looking at these cases across the country. What prompted your interest?
So my investigation actually started about 4 years ago. There was a guy in Colorado named Elijah McClain, a 23-year-old, who was surrounded by police, taken down. Paramedics ended up coming in. They injected him with ketamine as well. He lost consciousness, and he ended up passing away. And it created a lot of controversy in Colorado to the point where there was a new law that took effect and a new health policy that prohibits how paramedics, or reduces how paramedics can use this drug for this specific reason. And when I started digging into that, I started finding other cases where people were saying, I think I was injected with this drug as well. They were questioning whether it was being used appropriately or not. And that's what led me to start looking nationally outside of that state and see where else this is happening and what's being done to educate people about it.
But I mean, it really makes you question why they're using this. If there have been people who've had bad reactions, if people have died, when you think about ketamine, it sounds like a very powerful drug. Is there anything else that could be used? I mean, how common is the use of ketamine in these types of situations?
Well, if there are 48 states that have agencies that are allowed to use this for agitation in a pre-hospital setting, where, and when I talk to medical toxicologists, they talk about how safe this drug actually is. It has a good safety profile. Paramedics say they need this drug to protect themselves and their patients so they don't escalate to a larger medical issue. So it's not a black and white issue. There's a lot of layers to this, but still what we're looking at is the question of how the drug is being administered and if it's being administered appropriately, and it is not supposed to be administered to aid in a law enforcement arrest.
And what was really interesting in that clip is that the suspect in the case was down on the ground, obviously had his hands behind his back. He was restrained. So it makes you question what kind of a danger he could be to law enforcement. And it makes you also wonder, when paramedics arrive on the scene, do they feel pressure from law enforcement to tranquilize the suspect? I mean, I wonder what the dynamic is at the end of the day between the two.
Well, inevitably they work together. I mean, they have a very close relationship. The police have to trust the paramedics. They have to trust each other to be able to do their job. And that is a question that has come up. In Colorado, for example, the lawmakers did make it very clear in their new law that law enforcement is not to be involved in what paramedics are doing. And a lot of paramedics I've talked to will say, no, we are the ones that we're assessing the patient. We are the ones that are making that medical decision. But then you listen to some of the body camera footage that we've uncovered, and you hear the police saying, we'll let them sedate him when they get on the scene. And then when the paramedic arrives, saying directly to the police officer before going to the patient, you know, does this guy need ketamine? So there is that question that's popped up, and some questions about that, you know, that's why we're trying to shine light on this so that, you know, more negative things don't happen.
No, absolutely. I'm so happy that you took the time to investigate this, and I look forward to watching your piece. Scripps News Investigates correspondent Lori Jane Glee, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. And don't forget that you can watch her story, Injected. It happens this Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on In Real Life. It happens right here on Scripps News Live. We are back after a quick break.
At Rue La La, feel like $1 million without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this. Loan Falcon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to OnDeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
There's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. And checking your credit score or bank statements may not be enough to alert you. That's because identity threats appear in more places than you realize. Identity thieves can use your information to open loans, transfer home titles, even commit crimes.
Someone stole my information and tried to buy a car in my name.
LifeLock monitors for threats to your identity, including ones you may miss, and alerts you if there's an issue. And if you're a victim, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All plans backed by LifeLock's $1 million protection package, including reimbursement for stolen funds.
I know LifeLock has me covered.
LifeLock, identity theft protection starts here. Call the number on your screen or visit lifelock.com/25now and use promo code 25now to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
I got the groceries.
You were just supposed to get diapers.
Couldn't find them.
Well, you found your favorite cereal. Go back.
Can't. We're kind of broke until payday.
Well, diapers kinda can't wait. I'm getting the Empower app. Empower Cash Advance gives me up to $250 instantly. No late fees, interest, or credit checks.
Hurry back.
No guarantees. Diapers are so hard to find.
Get Empower Cash Advance up to $250 instantly. Download the Empower app today.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush.
On the stories that will shape each day.
There's a new study that might make you feel a little bit better.
So you can get on with yours. Morning Rush. Weekday mornings starting at 7, 6 Central. Only on Scripps News.
Hey there, welcome back to Scripps News Live. Great to see you on this Friday. It's about 28 minutes after the hour now, and I'm Veronica De La Cruz. Let's get you caught up on the day's top stories right now. The Federal Reserve says extremely poor bank management played a major role in the Silicon Valley bank collapse. It says weakened regulations and lax government supervision also contributed. According to a Fed report, liquidity issues and interest rate risk management plagued the bank. It indicates the bank shouldn't have been ranked so highly as conditions there deteriorated. A judge admonished one of former President Trump's attorneys for his aggressive tone while challenging author E. Jean Carroll's rape claim against Trump. Joe Tacopina asked her why she didn't scream when she says that Trump assaulted her in a department store dressing room. Carroll responded that she's not a screamer and she panicked. Trump is denying any wrongdoing. Carroll is suing the former president for battery and defamation. A Massachusetts judge says that he will rule later whether the Air National Guardsman charged with leaking classified material will get out of jail. But Magistrate Judge David Hennessy seems to have concerns about releasing 21-year-old Jack Teixeira pending trial. Teixeira is accused of posting dozens of classified military documents online. Prosecutors say he did it to impress his friends in an online chat room. The Pentagon is trying to calm any fears that this case may have caused.
The vast majority of people who are awarded security clearances come to work every day and do the right thing. And this investigation will tell us what happened and where this individual did the wrong thing.
Prosecutors say Teixeira had an arsenal of weapons and posted threats online about killing, quote, a ton of people. They also say he searched mass shootings on his government-issued computer. Teixeira is charged under the Espionage Act, but has yet to enter a plea. Well, a major problem at our southern border drew headlines last month when 4 Americans drove to Mexico for cosmetic surgery. They got lost and were caught in a drug cartel shootout. 2 of them were killed and 2 were held captive before being rescued 4 days later. Now, lost in those headlines and the politics back at home is how these drug cartels have become so well armed.
In fact, he went on to say 5 of our 9 sectors of our southwest border are under the control of the drug cartels. That's the chief of the Border Patrol. These decisions made by Joe Biden and Alejandro Mayorkas have facilitated the drug cartels using a strategy of overwhelming the crossing sites, tying up Customs and Border Patrol, and then sliding the drugs around them in the thinned out rural areas.
Now, those drug cartels are armed with guns made here in the United States, and the situation has been so bad for so long, the Mexican government filed a lawsuit against U.S. gun makers. But that was thrown out last fall due to the special legal protection given to the gun industry in the United States. Steve Fisher joins us now. He's an independent investigative reporter who has written extensively about this. Steve, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me on the show, Veronica.
So, Steve, we were just listening into the Republican chairman of the House Committee on Homeland Security there, Representative Mark Green, who was pointing the finger at President Biden when it comes to drug cartels. But historically speaking, we know that the Republican Party has always protected the gun industry. How big of a problem is the trafficking of U.S. guns into Mexico?
It's perhaps one of the biggest problems in terms of security in Mexico. It contributes to the near record homicides that have been happening over the last decade in Mexico. And I would say it's one of the fundamental reasons that cartels have gained such extraordinary power and now have so much impunity in a country where the rule of law is seems to be getting weaker every day.
And I want to ask you exactly that, because you're saying they're becoming more and more powerful day in and day out. How are these cartels benefiting from gun laws here in America?
Well, getting guns, for example, in Mexico, legally purchasing a gun is extremely difficult. There's one gun store in the entire country. It's on a military base, and there are any number of forms you have to fill out and background checks you have to do to get a gun. Whereas in the United States, of course, it can be easier than getting some, say, cough medication, and trafficking it across the southern border of the United States is relatively easy because there isn't a lot of surveillance of shipments of cargo going into Mexico. So really getting guns in the United States is extraordinarily easy. And that has allowed the cartels, like the biggest cartels in the country, the Sinaloa cartel and the other one known as the Jalisco cartel, to gain extraordinary power and take over more and more territory with weapons. We're now talking about weapons that can take down helicopters, and they have taken down helicopters. So the military is only trying to catch up to the cartel when it comes to their defenses and trying to hold them off. But the cartel seems to be winning this battle at the moment.
Where are these guns coming from exactly? You're saying the Sinaloa cartel, the Jalisco cartel, they're bringing these guns back to Mexico. Are there states that are more responsible in the U.S. for the trafficking of these guns? Where are they coming from exactly?
Yeah, Texas and Arizona are some of the primary sources of weapons for these major cartels, for any cartel, for anyone who wants a gun in Mexico. Basically they're able to have people go to, say, small gun shops and buy a series of weapons over a period of days and then make that shipment down into Mexico without too much fear of getting caught.
So 7 out of 10 guns pouring into Mexico are coming from the United States right now. Mexico has said almost 600,000 U.S.-made guns cross into Mexico from the U.S. every year. Why has Mexico been unable to stop these guns from entering their country? We spoke briefly about a lawsuit that was thrown out. Why does this continue to happen?
Well, really, Mexico could increase their enforcement and surveillance of traffic coming from the United States into the southern border of the United States into the country. It would require an extraordinary amount of resources, and it could have an impact on the bilateral economic relationship for the country, because slowing down this traffic, of course, can have huge implications for goods coming into the country and getting to their destinations on time and things like that. I think what is challenging is much like, say, the drug fentanyl is just flowing into the United States from Mexico right now, with the United States having a difficult time stopping it. Fentanyl is made in Mexico in many, many, many different laboratories across the country without much to be done. Much done about it. In the same way, there are many, many, many gun shops in the United States that are just freely, again, selling weapons to almost anyone who comes into their store. So there's little done in the United States to slow down the trafficking of weapons to Mexico, and Mexico's having a hard time stopping it at their border due to, again, lack of perhaps resources and enforcement, but very much as a result of extremely lax gun laws in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a lot of really, really good points here, and it is so interesting at the end of the day in terms of priorities, because all the issues at the southern border right now, and the U.S. and Mexico trying to work together, where do you think the issue of guns stands when compared to drugs like fentanyl or migrants coming across the border? Should guns be a bigger priority?
If the United States is interested in helping Mexico reduce the extraordinary number of homicides in the country and to reduce the powers of drug cartels, and they are extremely powerful, perhaps more powerful than they have ever been in this country, then the United States would make great efforts to increase the regulations and restrictions of who can buy these weapons. And in Mexico, there is a huge interest in reducing, of course, this almost unprecedented violence. And so for Mexico, stopping the weapons is one of their top priorities, but they're subjected in a way to the laws of the United States. So again, where Mexico doesn't do a lot to stop the drugs going into the United States does very little to stop these weapons killing people in Mexico.
It is a big, big problem. Independent investigative reporter Steve Fisher, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.